everyone, this is Angel Heart 4561. Hi, I miss you guys. It's been a while since I made a video. My computer hasn't been working well, so still not working well. I'm waiting to get it fixed. I hope it lasts through this video, and this probably is a long one. Today I wanted to share with you my story and how I survived a subarachnoid hemorrhage. So it began in February 2011. This was about February 7th. It was the night after I'd worked the night shift, and I believe I was off that night. I slept during the day. I woke up. I was up because I'm usually up late, and I was up until 1:30 a.m. and I was on the phone speaking with my sister-in-law. And this is where intuition comes in. I learned to start trusting my intuition a lot and start to listen to my intuition and listen when God speaks to me. Because we all have God's spirit within us. And sometimes when God speaks, we don't listen and we ignore. But I'm a person who I'm accustomed to hearing God speak to me, hearing the angels, even though sometimes I ignore them. But when it comes to serious matters, when they tell me something, I tend to listen. And in this case, I heeded on their warning. So I was on the phone talking with my sister-in-law about 1:30 when I hear this little subtle voice say to me, a blood vessel in your head just burst. And I was like, whoa, what happened there? So I started thinking about it for a second, and I said, really? So I said to my sister-in-law, I have to get off the phone. I think a blood vessel in my head just burst, and I have to go to the hospital. So I brought the phone to my husband, and I told him I'm going to have to go to the hospital. A blood vessel in my head just burst. And he looked at me strange. So, of course, I said I'm going to go take a shower. I'm going to get ready to go to the hospital. Because if this is serious, they're going to admit me, and they're going to keep me, and they're going to do a bunch of tests. So I packed a little bag before I took a shower. I packed my little bag with my phone, a charger, a little bit of things that I thought I would need, insurance card, that kind of stuff. And then I went into the bathroom to take a shower. When I went to take a shower, I felt a little bit lightheaded, but I didn't have any headache as yet. And as many of you know, I'm a provider, so I know what the symptoms of a subarachnoid hemorrhage should be. So I quickly got out. I didn't want to stay in there too long because I know the right thing to do was actually supposed to be calling 911. But I myself was like, there's no way. I was bleeding in my head. But I said I'm going to eat on the side of caution and just listen and go check it out anyway. So I got my stuff, I got dressed, got my bag. I went in my room. I saw my husband. I said, aren't you ready? We're going to the hospital. He still didn't believe me. He was looking at me like, you look okay. So I told him we got to get to the hospital. I have a bleed in my head. So, he knows that I don't do these things just like that. I wouldn't get up and go to the hospital. I've never done that before. So he got in the car and he drove and he took me to the hospital. Before we got out, I saw my dad. He looked out. He's like, where are you going this time of the morning? And I didn't really want to scare him. So I didn't want to tell him I think I'm bleeding in my head. So I told my dad, oh, I have a headache. I'm going to go check it out at the hospital. He said, okay. So on our way to the hospital, I was telling my husband, with an aneurysm, and when it's ruptured, many people don't survive. And I was going through the whole factual stuff about it. I was telling him what he should do if I don't survive, what he should do with the children, what he should do with himself, all that kind of stuff. he knows me. I'm a very strong person, a strong will, and I tend to find humor in a lot of stuff. But all along, even when I was going through the door, getting in the car, going to the hospital, I just kept hearing this voice: "You'll be okay, everything will be fine." So I was just listening to this little guidance that I was getting. So we got to the hospital, and I wrote on the paper that we have to submit to the nurse what my symptoms were. But for me to tell them that I think a blood vessel just popped in my head, no one is going to go see me. So, and I was only feeling a little lightheaded. So I wrote the lightheadedness down, and I wrote very severe headache with sudden onset, because those are the symptoms of a subarachnoid hemorrhage. If you ever had a very severe headache with sudden onset, whatever, like the worst headache of your life, you're not accustomed to having headache and you have the worst headache of your life, go straight to the emergency room. So that's what I put on there: very severe headache with sudden onset. And I put it under the little window for the nurse. And I was sitting there for about 10 minutes and no one called. So I asked my husband, could you go check and see what's going on? So he went and he checked at the window. And the lady at the window said there's only one nurse and he's very busy in the back. So then he came to the front and he looked at my paper and he called me in right away. I then went back there. The nurse called me for triage. And he took my vital signs. And he checked my blood pressure and everything, and he spoke with me, went through triage questions, and he said, "Oh, your vital signs are okay, you seem okay." So I said to him, my blood pressure usually runs on the low side, so what you consider okay is not okay for me, so could you please get a doctor? So that's when he called the doctor to come and see me. So the doctors came, it was two of them, female, and they had me on a stretcher. My husband was there, and I was sitting on the stretcher, and they went through a series of questions, and they asked, a lot of stuff, where I work. They found out I'm a healthcare worker. They wanted to know what area I worked in, if I was in contact with anyone contagious, because they were leaning more on the side of either very severe migraine or meningitis, that kind of stuff. So I told them I'm bleeding in my head. So that's when they said, we want to do like a spinal tap just to make sure it's not meningitis, and they were talking a bunch of stuff, and I'm saying, if CAT scan is an option, why not do the CAT scan first, and then we can continue talking about the spinal tap, because that's more invasive. So then they told me to stand up for a second. But when they asked me to stand up and I stood up, I got dizzy and I swayed like that and I almost fell. So then they told me to sit back down. That's the first time I really noticed I had real symptoms. So I sat back on the stretcher, lay back down, and they put some oxygen on me. So they said, you know what, we think we're going to do the CAT scan first. So I noticed I started having like throbbing in my head, because while I was talking to the nurse, I noticed like a light tinge of like a little throb in my head, but nothing like headache, because I've had headache all my life, ever since I can remember. I've had headaches, very severe headaches, and this was nothing. I didn't really have a headache at this point, so I felt a little light throb, and I said, okay, something is going on. So they said, we'll do the CAT scan. They sent me for a CAT scan. I came back. Upon return, they reviewed the results and they say, oh, guess what? You were right. You do have a bleed. So I was like, okay. So that's when I noticed my husband was like, oh, he got a little bit nervous, because he said, oh, this thing is real. So they started running around and making calls to see what's going on. The radiologists, the doctors, they called neurology to come down and see me. And they had called a surgeon in Long Island, because I'm in New York. And they called a surgeon in Long Island, and the surgeon said he couldn't make it at the time, because they wanted him to come in to see what they were going to do. And the neurologist was saying, he didn't think it was so serious. He's still thinking it's a very bad migraine. And they were going back and forth. They were arguing. And the radiologist is saying, are you crazy? Can't you see the bleed on the scan? And this was going on for a while. So then the doctor was saying she's going to have to transfer me to another hospital that could take care of me. That hospital, the local hospital. This was in Brooklyn. They said they didn't think they could help. Their surgeon is not coming into the city, and they can take care of me there. So I was there for a number of hours, until I started having very bad headaches. Headaches got worse and worse. I was having headaches until the pain was getting so intense, I started screaming, yelling. But the care there, I don't like to speak negative of anyone, but care there was not so well. They were asking me to get up to walk to give them a urine specimen, and I was telling them I'm not supposed to be walking in my state. And, I wasn't getting any IV fluids, nothing. I didn't see them initiating anything, as if they had given up on me, as if I'm going to die already. So at this point, I started crying because I was in a lot of pain. Pain was very intense. I was really in a lot of pain. And this is when they gave me an NSAID, an anti-inflammatory for my pain. And I was asking them, why give me an NSAID? I said, this is going to make me bleed more. They were telling me the neurologist still doesn't believe it's really an aneurysm. So that's when I said, I can't stay here. I have to really go somewhere else. But then that little voice again came back and said, why don't you let them transfer you? Let them transfer you to where you work. And I said, that's a good idea. So I called the doctor and I said, can you transfer me to where I work? And she said, where is that? And I said, I work at near Presbyterian. I work at near Presbyterian. This is the Weill Cornell Center on 60 in New York. And that's in Manhattan. And I know that we were one of the best hospitals in the city at the time. We're in the top 10, and we have a good group of neurosurgeons. And I told her, transfer me there. So she told me she already contacted another hospital in Brooklyn, and she already, she's making arrangements for me to go there. And if they come, they're going to take me. She cannot wait for a hospital in Manhattan. That's going to take a while. So I gave her the numbers for the supervisors there, because I've worked at Presbyterian for a number of years. I worked there for about over 12 years at that point. And I knew the supervisors very well. I had the numbers for the office. While I was a nurse there on the floor, or RN, I was in charge many nights, so I used to call the office all the time, or hours of the night. So I know their numbers. So I gave her 2 numbers to reach them. And I also gave them a number for the unit. And I told them, call these 2 numbers. Someone there will pick up. And just tell them it's me. And they'll know what to do. They'll take it from there. So at this point, we were just waiting. The doctor was so nervous, because at first she didn't take it. She was there going along, but, I didn't look the way I look right now. I lost my vision. My eyes were filled with blood. All you could see was redness in my eyes. I couldn't really see anything. So I noticed that everything became like, I wouldn't say blurry. I just noticed like things were running. You ever see like a broken television set and everything is just running up and down, going up and down? That's how everything seemed to me. Like the walls were running up and down. And I couldn't see anything. I was losing my vision at that point. I couldn't see anyone. And then I heard this loud noise in my head, like a broken down tape recorder just twisting up and down, going bzzz, making all kind of weird sound. It was all the noises I heard in my head, loud buzzing sounds. And the pain was just unbearable. So I think at that point they gave me morphine or something like that for pain. But whatever they gave me, nothing worked. They gave me something for pain. They had a IV medlock in my arm. They gave me something for pain. But nothing they gave me worked. I was just intense pain. Felt like I was dying. So I was still screaming. And the doctor was getting scared. So she was on the phone and she says, well, we called the ambulance in Brooklyn. The hospital is right down there. They should get here soon. So after she went out, and she also called the hospital in Manhattan. She called New Presbyterian. And she says, well, I did call your hospital for you. Whichever one gets here first, that's the one I'm going to send you with, because I can't keep you here waiting for your hospital to get here. I don't want to run the risk of you dying because you need surgery right away. So I said, in all honesty, that's fair. I don't want to sit there waiting if there's another ambulance that comes for me first. So I left it in God's hands, as I usually do. That little voice just kept telling me, you'll be okay. So I was there waiting, and while I waited, an ambulance showed up. 2 guys came, and I went, and the doctor said, the ambulance is here. They came and they got me, and they put me in the stretcher. And I said, wow. I said, you guys are here for us? I said, where are you guys from? They said, we're from New Presbyterian. I said, really? I said, you guys got here that quickly from Manhattan? And I was still trying to figure out, where is this ambulance from Brooklyn? But when you're supposed to get somewhere, you'll get there. Anyway, they brought me to Manhattan, and I never got to Manhattan that quickly. That ambulance must have flown. And they drove so fast. The ambulance was tossing me from side to side, because by the time I got there, I could actually see stuff. The blood was shifted in my head. So I got there. I left Brooklyn about 6:30 or so, somewhere there. I don't know. I was in Brooklyn until 6:30, but I'm not sure what time I left, but I know that when I got to Manhattan, I actually saw the clock, and they brought me to the intensive care unit, and I looked at the clock, and it was about 7:30, because I was like, whoa, I could see again. They really shook me up in the ambulance. But the guys in the ambulance, they were really great. They were giving me a lot of jokes, and they were trying to keep me, from worrying. They didn't want me to worry, and it was really fun riding with them. God bless them. I love them. And while I was in the ambulance, I really wanted to reach out to my friends. I tried calling 1 or 2 of my friends, but I couldn't speak. I was saying gibberish. So I had my husband contact my friends and my family. But I got to the hospital, and as soon as I got there, this is what we're curious about. I got to the hospital, and everyone was all over me. I got to the hospital, there were nurses, there was physician assistant, the doctors, everyone was all over me. They got my report, and when I got there were people putting in lines, they were putting in the catheter, and, for those of you who have been sick, you know what a catheter is. For the catheter, putting in lines. So they said, we need to do another CAT scan on you. So they rushed me to do a CAT scan, radiology. We did a CAT scan, and they came back, and from there, straight to surgery. I went straight to surgery. So I went into surgery that morning, and I was not back until later that evening, about 3:30, 4:30 there somewhere. I don't have any notes with me, so I don't know the exact time. But I knew it took a very long time, and I knew my family, they were concerned because they didn't see me coming back, and my friends, they were very worried. I have some very loyal friends, co-workers that were with me. Some of them never got any sleep. They worked the night shift, and they came down and they couldn't sleep. They were there waiting to see what was going on, and God bless them. Oh my God, I love them so much. They're family. They're near and dear to my heart. And my family was there. I know my dad, my husband, they didn't eat or drink anything all day. They were just pacing, and worried, and the story just go on and on, and my sister, everyone was just so worried about me. And what the doctors told me was that they had a difficult time waking me up from the anesthesia, and because of that, they were making plans to make other arrangements. So they had planned to go speak to my family to tell them what the decision was that they were going to do with me, to leave me on the vent and stuff. But shortly after that, after they had made that decision, they're going to make their speech and stuff. When they went into the room to have the meeting, they said when the nurses came and called them and said, "Oh no, she's waking up." So that's when they came and they got me. but they don't know what was happening in the spiritual realm. I do, but that's another story. Anyway, as you can see, I'm here. So I got back. I woke up in the ICU and I was there for weeks, weeks and weeks and weeks. And I cannot tell you what condition I was in. You name it, I was attached to it. So they did an experimental procedure. And as you can see, I have no scars or anything. They did coiling, and they did coiling, and this is a radiologic procedure. So I had 3 coils at the time. So they went in through the femoral groin and they did that. So they didn't have to cut me in the head and cut off my hair. Because the first thing I thought was like, oh, they're gonna cut off my hair and let me bald. And you're dying, and that's what you're thinking. So anyway, they didn't have to cut my head open. So the doctors came back. They came back to give me a report once I was awake, and I was pretty much out of it, still in a lot of pain. Believe me, the pain lasted for weeks. So they told me that it was their words, very nasty bleed. So it was very nasty bleed, and it took quite a few surgeons to do the surgery. And so they had to go and get extra help across the street, because across the street they have also a resident hall. And they got some help. The head of the neurosurgery team was there. My doctor, who's still my surgeon, who's still my doctor, was there, and it was just the radiologist. A whole bunch of surgeons were there. So I was just so happy I was in good hands, and I know that Christ was guiding them throughout the whole thing. The whole angelic team was there. So I have a bunch of people that was working with me. So they told me it was a pretty bad bleed, and they told me, you are very lucky you did not try to do this in Brooklyn, because they said 1 or 2 surgeons could not have done your surgery. They probably would have cut your head open, told your family that they tried their best, and that was it, because a few people could not have done this. So I'm very grateful that I went where I went to do this surgery, and what they did for me worked. While I was there now, the problem with doing the surgery with all the blood that's left in your head after doing the surgery is that it caused vasospasm of the other vessels in the head. So they had to do ultrasound at nights and then CAT scan in between to watch to see if I was having vasospasm. And they had me on a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know. I had so many lines. I couldn't move. I was lying on my back, and I had lines so I could not turn. And thank God for the staff, the doctors, the nurses, the surgeon, everyone that took care of me. God bless them. I love them. Oh my God, it's when they were angels, because indeed they were. And all my friends, colleagues, co-workers that came and looked for me, my manager that came to look for me, they were there every day, supporting me day and night. You know, the love I felt for them, their prayers, everyone prayers. There was so much prayers. So many people were praying for me. I don't know. That's how I made it through this. I never felt so much love. That's what brought me through all that. And they were just enormous amount of support. So much support. And so with the vasospasms, they did the ultrasound, and they kept doing that. They said they would watch it to see what would happen to the vessels, because the blood was draining to the back of my head to go down my back, and it caused a lot of back pain. I was in intense pain, and I was in headache, the pain. I couldn't withstand the light, nothing, like, I don't know. And they told me, oh, because of it's a neurological issue, they cannot give me strong medication, anything that's going to affect my neurological testing, because they would come in every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes, every half an hour to see how my neuro was, to see if I was intact, if I was alert, if I was oriented, or anything like that. And if they give me anything sedative or anything that's going to, you know, that really control the pain, it will knock me out and impair my judgment. And they didn't want to do that. So they can't give me anything too strong or anything too much. So they give me a little bit of pain medication, you know, but didn't really work. So I was always in pain. That was only the disadvantage, but I know it's not their fault, because they want to make sure that I was okay. And When they did the one night when they did the ultrasound, they saw that I had vasospasm on the right side of my brain, which shows that the vessel was closing, like it was narrow and closing in, and there's no blood that was going to flow through that vessel. So they figured that they would have to go in manually and open up the vessel again. So they came and they said they're going to do a CAT scan to confirm. They brought me to CAT scan, and these trips were crazy. The blood pressure going through the roof, sky high. They have to give me strong doses of antihypertensive medication to drop the blood pressure down. So they'll give me labetalol, and it wouldn't work. They give me more labetalol, and I was just still screaming to my blood pressure through the roof. But it was just one thing after another. So, and I had a whole bunch of experiences while I was there in the hospital. But that's another story. Because when you go through these things, there's a lot of things that happen in the physical. There's a lot of things that happen in the spiritual. But I did, thank God, I had my guardian angels there, my guides there. They kept me through this. I did speak with them. Thankful for their support. And I did meet a very interesting guy in the room when I went to do my CAT scan. He was very sad. I don't know. He's like, he felt my pain when I was crying. I never met him before, but I knew he wasn't one of the staff there. But I could just see the sadness on his face, and he was looking at me. But when I had this test done, they came back. They were telling me that they may have to go back and do another surgery again to put a stent in, or they're going to try to open up the vessel and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, no way, I don't want to do another surgery. So they were thinking, okay, maybe we could do it in a couple of days. You have some time. They spoke to my husband. They told him, we're not going to do this today. You could go home. We'll call you if we change our mind during the week. We're just going to keep an eye. Because they were giving me some medication. At the time, it was forcing to keep my blood pressure up a little bit. They were titrating it so my blood pressure would be up. That would force the vessel to stay open. They wouldn't give me, whenever the blood pressure gets to a certain level, I get very intense headache. So they would run in, and I would be screaming. So they would run in and they put it back down a little bit. But that treatment kept me in the ICU because that was to keep the vessel open, the blood circulating on that side of my brain in the event, because they don't want the right side of my brain to shut down, and the blood wasn't flowing that well on that side. So they were trying to do that in the meantime, see if they could spare me surgery unless it would go back on its own. So they did that treatment, and we were doing that for a couple of days. And in the morning, same night, they told me, okay, we wait a few days for surgery, we'll see what happens. In the morning, I just saw a team of people come in my room, and my friend came and said, what happened to your breakfast? And they're like, oh, she's not having breakfast this morning, she's going for surgery. And I said, surgery for what? They're like, oh, you're going back for surgery again. I was like, no, I'm not going for surgery. They're like, yes, you need surgery. Your vessels on the right side of your brain is closing off. I said, when did you decide this? Just yesterday you told me I'm not going for surgery. So I was not too happy because I did not want to go back in surgery. I have not yet seen my children. And after making it through surgery, I did not plan to go back to surgery. So I was upset. And then the head of the surgery department, not the head, one of the other surgeons, because he wasn't the head of that surgery team, one of the other surgeons that was supposed to do the surgery, he came in. But after the group went out, he came in to do an assessment. And when he came in the room, he looked at my chart. And he looked at my chart, he looked at me, he looked at my chart, he looked at me. And then he's like, are you so-and-so? I said, yes. And he's like, you're the patient? I said, yes. He looked at my chart, he said, oh, I think these are the wrong tests. I had those tests done twice. And then he asked me to do a series of neurological testing, and I did them. And then he's like, he said, but you don't look like the CAT scan. And he said, I don't think I'm going to do any surgery on you. You're going to come out worse. You may come out worse than you are now. He said, you don't worry. You don't worry about anything. I'm not doing any surgery on you today. You could eat your breakfast. I'm going to tell him to bring you breakfast. There's no way I'm going to do surgery on you. So he left. They started laughing. So they decided they will watch and see what the medication will do, and if I would, the vasospasm would go away and so on. And I was there, so they couldn't let me go because the vessel on the right side of my brain was closed. And they were wondering, how the circulation was working. So they were observing me. It was closing off, and they didn't want it to totally shut down. So they were watching me for a couple of weeks and giving me the experimental treatment, whatever, to see if it works, keep my blood pressure in that range. It was a little elevated, so it would force the blood supply there. My heart worked a little hard to push some blood up there in that side of the brain. So I was there for a while. So a whole bunch of stuff, whole bunch of fluids. So that's how I survived my aneurysm. But through the whole thing, I have to let you know, God spoke to me all the time, always confirming that I'll be okay, and I listened. Whatever God told me to do, I did. My intuition, my higher self, I always listened, and I did. My angel guides, I always listened to them. Whatever they told me, I did. And when you're in this state and you're there, most of the time when no one is there with me, I get time to reflect. And then I get to see, and there's so much that happened. I think this is the thing that pushed me towards, more of an awakening, because I was just spending too much time having fun on this planet, in this plane of existence, just living like everyone else, walking through the matrix, living, enjoying life, and not doing what you're here to do. And we're sent here to do so much more than we're actually doing. So I started paying much more attention to what I'm here to do and started doing more, right? So I'm very thankful. I'm very blessed. My family, my friends, all the people on the planet, all of you, my brothers and sisters of light, I love you guys so much. And this pushed me to wake up a lot more. So the healing process was indeed a long one, because I got physically, I got over everything real quickly, just like that. I got out. I don't even know how I was able to even walk after I got out of the hospital, because I went from the ICU to the step down and I was discharged. And even when they asked me to walk, and the physical therapist asked me to walk, and I was able to walk after lying in the bed for weeks. When I came home, I had home PT for a week, and I couldn't even raise my leg on my own. They asked me to, I could not lift my leg up. I tried to lift my leg, it was just falling. I don't even know how I walked. So she was saying, how do you walk? And yet if I get up to walk, I can walk. But every time I got up to walk, and if I tell you this stuff, you probably won't believe me, so I'll go through in another video. But this is how angels and guides work. Yourself, when you need to do stuff, they'll help you out. My guides always help me. My guardian angel help me. They give me the strength. They come in and they merge sometimes with you just to give you the strength to walk. And I know they do this sometimes with me. I feel it. I know when they do it, and I see when they do it. So they will come in and they merge with me and they give me the strength to walk. So my guardian angel, he would come in. My guide, they will come in and they merge with me, and I get up and I walk. But on my own, when I try to lift my muscles, I cannot do it. So I was able to do that until I exercised and got my strength back. But and being someone who always saw the spirit realm in the hospital, not really the best way to see some of those beings. But because some of them, they didn't move on, and they just wanted to be there. I had two beings in my room that just thought it was their room, and I had to let them know that, your time is up, you gotta go. This is not my room, so you have to leave. And this is just another part of life. So my experience, even though it's a life-threatening one, it wasn't over after that hospital visit. In 2014, I had to do a second surgery, because annually I would go and do an MRI of the head, to check on the aneurysm to see how it, how it's doing, if there's any bleeding, any new aneurysm going on in my head. And, as usual, my intuition, I always see things ahead of time most of the time. If it concerns me and if it's important, I get downloads, I see things, and I usually know what's the results of certain tests are, if they're. So before I had this test done, I was able to see the day before, and this is what I call vision dreams, and I explained those things in my previous videos. And I saw that I was going to do an MRI. I saw what the results were. I saw everything on the results. I saw the radiologist give me a copy of the disc. I saw that when I went back to my surgeon's office, he reviewed the results and he told me what the results were and his exact breakdown of the results and what they were going to do or what they weren't going to do. So in that sense, I was not nervous or scared. So I was like, okay, there's this, there's that, there's a small little thing there, blah blah blah, they're gonna fix. And so I wasn't nervous. So when I went to do my MRI and I got a copy of the disc, I went to the office and my neurosurgeon went through the results. He reviewed it with me. I also spoke with his NP and his nurse practitioner. She was like, how come you're not nervous, you're not scared? And I was just smiling. And I said, because I already know these things. I already know what the result's going to say. And she's like, you're something else. But I don't get panicky about these things. And then I went and did another surgery, and they put a stent in. So now not only do I have coiling, I have a brain stent. So I have a brain stent on the right side. But thank God I'm doing okay. I'm great. And I'm blessed to be here. So I'll share other stuff with you, but I just want you to know, even with your medical knowledge or whatever knowledge you may have, always trust your gut. If you want to call it your gut, your intuition, trust God, universe, source, whatever word you use, just always trust that higher understanding. The angels, they're always there. Christ is always there to help. Christ has been a great surgeon. He's always there in the OR with me, and I love him dearly, and I thank him for everything. And I just love my brothers and sisters for their support. I love each and every one of you so much. Oh my God, I miss you guys so much. So I will be talking to you guys much more about the path to ascension and a lot of the stuff that goes on the path to ascension and what is going on in this world, and the other world, or new world, which is already here. Many can't see because we're stuck in this matrix. So I'll discuss other stuff with you as we go along. I love you. Bye. And as always, thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a message or comment. All right, inbox me if you want, and I'll answer any questions that you may have. Bye.